Hard Rain is certainly an interesting film. There were bits of this film that I really loved. There were bits that are really powerful. But at the same time, there were bits that I didn't love. So I'm kind of on the fence with how I feel about this. In general, I'm going to say it's a good film that I recommend, but I didn't love it as much as I hoped to. This was released in 1998. It's directed by Mikael Salomon, written by Graham Yost, with a cast including Christian Slater, Morgan Freeman, Randy Quaid, Minnie Driver, Ed Asner, Betty White. Brilliant cast. It's because of Betty White that I became aware of this and wanted to watch this, read the description and thought, well, I love rain. I really love the rain. It is actually raining just now as I record this. So that part of it was going to appeal to me. But there were bits of it that just didn't work very well. Drivers are transporting money during a rainstorm and it is flooding everywhere, has flooded, and it's chaotic, and people want to make this even harder by trying to get the money. They're making it very difficult for the drivers to protect the money, and I was not prepared for the amount of water in this film. It is overwhelming in a really powerful way. If you live anywhere where floods are common and are a serious danger, I imagine this would be a really terrifying experience. It was so easy to believe what I was watching. That part of it is so well executed. However, I'm going to praise it and then explain why I didn't like this part of it. It is so believable. The noise is incredible. It sounds exactly like what I imagine it would have done, but that meant that I found it quite uncomfortable to watch. I'm very sensitive to sound, and not all of the scenes, but most of them are very, very, very noisy, and it does feel realistic. It is believable. It is atmospheric, but it's noisy. It's a lot. So if you don't like scenes that are constantly really, really noisy, you're straining to hear the dialogue, it's quite difficult. Again, it's very believable, but it's quite uncomfortable to watch as well. And had it been few and far between, that would have been okay. But because it is flooding and raining throughout pretty much the entire film, that means that it's noisy for a lot of the film. So I'm praising the film for it, but because I'm sensitive to sound, and I know a lot of people are, that part of it was actually really uncomfortable after a while. But I do appreciate the scenes that are a little bit quieter. It does help make a little bit of a difference. And again, it's not really a criticism of the film. It feels realistic, but for me as a viewer, it was just uncomfortable. I also didn't love some of the camera work. Sometimes it was quite difficult to see what was happening, and maybe that's what they were going for, to make it feel a little bit more uneasy and unsettling. But that's not what I was looking for from many of the scenes. Sometimes it is quite difficult to see what's going on. The narrative is fine. It works well. The characters are well written. The performances are very good. I imagine those kind of filming situations would have been very, very challenging. I don't like being in water at all. And as I said, there is a lot of water in this film. But it's not always the best to look at. And for me, it wasn't the best to listen to. But there are some moments that were really thrilling, quite intense and dangerous for some of the characters. However, a couple of those moments did feel a little gimmicky with how they were executed, or I guess how they were filmed. It just didn't feel, some of the moments didn't feel as intense as dramatic. They felt a little bit more gimmicky rather than emotional and suspenseful. So it felt very realistic. The overarching narrative works well. The performances are brilliant. Some of the camera work I liked. The noise is very realistic, but it's very, very noisy. So I guess it all balances out as being an average viewing experience for me. If you don't have a problem with the noise and you don't mind some of the camera work or all of the camera work, it could be a much stronger experience for you. At no point would I say it's a bad film, but I think there is room for improvement. But at the same time, it's very atmospheric. I think they told a story they wanted to tell in a way that's generally very convincing and mostly really effective. So it's not a bad film. I don't think that there are any problems with it really, but I don't think it's going to be comfortable for everybody. Do I recommend it? Yes, give it a go. But if, like me, there are certain things that might not work for you, just bear that in mind going into it. But I would say it's worth watching, as I do think it will be more comfortable for some people rather than others. I still don't think it fully met its potential, but ultimately, I guess Hard Rain is still a pretty decent film.